Hello Terminator fans, welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we'll talk about some of the highly destructive machines deployed by Skynet during its war against humanity. For those who need a refresher, the Terminator franchise, through its movies, comics, shows, and games, tells the story of an apocalyptic clash between humans and the artificial intelligence Skynet. This AI has an army of sophisticated, combat-ready cyborgs called the Terminators. T-800 is the most iconic one, of course, that was famously portrayed by Arnold Schwarzenegger in the films. But in addition to the cyborgs, Cyberdyne Systems that created Skynet also constructed multiple factions of non-humanoid hunter-killer robots called the HKs. And it's time for you to meet the deadliest of the bunch. So grab your popcorn and let's begin, shall we? Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. What are the HK tanks and HK aerials? Introducing the HK tanks. In Terminator lore, the various Terminator models and the very many hunter-killers were machines controlled by Skynet, but they had different builds and served different purposes. The Terminators, for example, were humanoid robots created particularly for infiltration missions and targeted assassinations. Like Schwarzenegger's T-800, all of the infiltrator Terminators were covered in living cell tissues over a hyperalloy endoskeleton to make them appear like humans. The TX from the films and the T-1001 from the Sarah Connor Chronicles could even shapeshift into multiple identities and objects. The Terminators were primarily sent back in time by Skynet to ensure the creation of this murderous AI, and also to make sure that the human team of resistance does not come into being, by eliminating key figures like Sarah Connor and later on her son John Connor. In that sense, the Terminators are sophisticated cyborgs with specific goals that can decide Skynet's fate in the future war. The Hunter-Killers served a more generic purpose for Skynet, operating as its commanders in the battlefield. Their primary purpose was the destruction of human resistance forces in the post-apocalyptic world. The HK tank, or the Cyberdyne Systems Series G-tracked autonomous fighting vehicle, is an umbrella term for Skynet's non-humanoid ground-based combat vehicles. The HK tanks were created from the T-1 or the T-1 ground assault vehicle, and as the name suggests, T-1 was the first series of Terminators to ever be made by Cyberdyne Systems. These completely autonomous battle beasts measured several stories in height and had a rotating mechanical head. The HK tanks were also equipped with armored appendages, such as the two-arm-like structure and dual-barrel directional plasma cannons, basically extremely powerful guns. Created in the structure of battle tanks, the Hunter-Killer's legs were individual tank treads. Even though their speed is slow, as they move completely on wheels just like battle tanks do, the Hunter-Killer tanks more than make up with their fierce firepower. However, being a tank, its outer structure is quite durable, but its head and neck areas are exposed, making it vulnerable to attack. Over time, the resistance forces learned to tackle these HK tanks by strategically placing demolition charges and by scavenging the tanks for power sources and weapons. As a counter, Skynet started incorporating crew compartments inside the Hunter-Killer tanks to secretly place Terminators inside to retaliate against the human assaults. The HK tanks appeared in the very first Terminator movie, the James Cameron-directed 1984 classic. On screen, the HK tank notoriously crushed human skulls while scouting for resistance members, and was seen shooting them incessantly. The characters Kyle Reese and Corporal Farrow attempted to take it down by throwing canister bombs. While Kyle succeeded, the tank's gun rounds shredded Farrow to pieces. In 1991's Judgment Day, the resistance forces also engaged in a gruesome battle with these HK tanks. In the TV show Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles, a new variety of the HK tank called the Ogre with a Gatling-type plasma cannon appeared briefly and was incredibly hard to kill. Resistance member Martin Bedell sacrificed his life by carrying a bomb to destroy this machine. In the 2009 movie Terminator Salvation, Resistance leader John Connor managed to reprogram an HK tank and send it to the Skynet headquarters in the ruins of San Francisco as a distraction. In the game Terminator Resistance, Skynet deploys several Hunter-Killer tanks against the Resistance troops, and just like John Connor did before, the Resistance reprograms one defeated tank and uses it in their battle against Skynet. In the anime series Terminator Zero, the HK tanks made a comeback and were designed like the original version of the tanks that appeared in the 1984 and 1991 Terminator movies, with rotating arm plasma cannon turrets.
But they will know who we are and what we did.
Introducing the HK aerials. Interestingly, the HK aerial was the first ever hunter-killer that appeared on screen in the Terminator movies. As the name suggests, it's an airborne hunter-killer aircraft, capable of vertical takeoff and landing, that was created by Skynet based on the blueprints left behind by Cyberdyne Systems. These large airborne machines are equipped with an array of underslung and wing-mounted lasers, missiles, and plasma cannons, making them a lethal force in aerial battle against resistance forces, who have very few aircraft compared to Skynet's fleet of HKs. The HK aerials have turbofan engines on each wing, and smaller turbofans on the tail. The HK aerials are powered by fusion reactors and are equipped with infrared and thermal imaging sensors, just like most Skynet machines. For Skynet, they form the bulk of the hunter-killer forces. The HK aerials' primary objective was to scout the destroyed cities in the post-Judgment Day apocalyptic world by air, and to destroy any trace of humans. Once they zeroed in on their ground targets, the HK aerials would relentlessly bombard them with their gun turrets. In addition to their individual scouting missions, the HK aerials also operated in sync with the ground armies of the Series 800 endoskeletons, one of the most formidable endos in the Terminator franchise. The HK aerial comes coated with the same laser-refractive hyperalloy that armor Terminator models. Here's a fun fact. In the comic series Transformers vs. the Terminator, the Decepticons, Thundercracker, Skywarp, and Starscream transformed into HK aerials as their alternate mode in the future. Variants of HK tanks and HK aerials explored. HK tanks, the formidable battleground troops. The Terminator franchise has introduced several variants of the HK tanks and the HK aerials, depending on the timeline and the upgrades they received. The first ever HK tank model that appeared was in the 1984 movie The Terminator, and then in the second film Terminator 2 Judgment Day, the HK tank became a Mark II, a stronger, more powerful version of the original one. It came with more weapons, and dual plasma turrets on each arm. In the game, Terminator 3 War of the Machines, the HK tanks got triple plasma cannons. It was a more compact design with a cluster of sensors in the front, instead of a traditional head. In the movie Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, the tank T1 that inspired the future hunter-killers are equipped with motion, heat and sound sensors, and a powerful radar to track targets easily. These battle machines also possess guns that blast off 3,000 rounds of 50 caliber ammunition every minute. The T1s are capable of rotating 360 degrees, and the guns are controlled by its onboard radar. The T1s move in a crouched posture, but they have the ability to rise up and tower at a height of 8 feet if required during combat. In the film Terminator Salvation, an HK tank is seen mounted on the Skynet headquarters perimeter wall. It's a modified one with the treads removed and a fully rotating torso to scout and destroy incoming targets with a 360-degree vision field. Another version of the HK tank appears in a concept art for the film Terminator Salvation. It looks like a gargantuan version of the T1 equipped with miniguns, along with the signature turrets. The game Terminator Genisys Future War also introduces 5 different types of buildable HK tanks as battle troops of Skynet, ranging from Tier 1 to Tier 5, depending on their upgrades and the player's advancement in the game. These HK tanks effectively destroy enemies' cavalry units, but are very vulnerable to airborne attacks. Another variant appeared in the Terminator Resistance game, which comes with as many as 4 transport erector launchers on the back. HK aerials, Skynet's deadly eye in the sky. Just like the HK tanks, several variants of the airborne war machines HK aerials also appeared across the franchise. The original timeline showed 2 HK aerials in battle, the Mark 7 or Aerial Tilt Rotor Attack Drone, and a newer model, the Mark 8 or Aerial Tilt Turbine Seeker Drone. Mark 7 was a canopy-less HK aerial equipped with a laser cannon in the front, and as many as 8 launchable seeker mines. The Mark 8 was armed with underslung cannons in addition to the front laser weapons. Mark 8 could also deploy mini hunter-killer drones, which are an annoying bunch. They hover over their enemies and target them with a single underslung plasma cannon. They're used to scout the battlefield and transmit information back to Skynet. This brings us to the Mark 9 HK aerials, also known as the Aerial Tilt Turbine Heavy Assault Drone Aircraft, or in short, the HK Bombers, which featured in the concept art for Judgment Day, and then in the game The Terminator Future Shock. The HK Bomber is a deadlier version of the HK aerial, with additional engine pods to support its bigger size and heavier weight. It had a more enhanced gun platform than the regular HK aerials, a greater number of phased plasma cannons, and was covered in powerful armor to provide greater resistance against resistance weapons. The game also featured a less powerful variant of the HK aerials, called HK Drones, which operated as airborne scout machines. It had less resistance armor and low-power laser guns for close-range attacks. In the Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines timeline, Skynet created an advanced HK aerial based on the prototype model of the HK drones, which were once mass-produced by the military corporation's Cyber Research Systems. This advanced HK aerial was described as an organic, shark-like aerial machine with a gigantic wingspan of 108 feet. It was more heavily armored with multiple machine guns to disorient targets. It was also equipped with large phased plasma cannons for annihilating stationary targets, and was loaded with 10 missiles for targeting enemy aircraft or bombarding ground forces. In the Terminator Salvation storyline, the design of the HK aerials somewhat reverted back to the aerials from the Terminator movie, but of course with some minute differences. The airborne machines were less angular and had more curvature in the hulls, and the optic sensors on the lower bow appeared as 3 glowing dots, which made it look kinda angry and scary. These HK aerials were huge and could also carry multiple T-700 Terminators on board to deploy them on the battlefield below. In the movie Terminator Genisys, the HK aerial became more sleek and less bulky than the Salvation one. They were the most formidable forces against humanity in the future war, as these machines were able to launch the plasma cannons and the missiles simultaneously at airborne targets and enemies on the ground. However, the most intriguing feature of these HK aerials was their ability to store and launch spider tanks on the battlefield. Stored in the aerial's belly, the spider tanks were non-humanoid quadrupedal combat robots, measuring twice and a half the size of an average human. In the Terminator Dark Fate timeline, Legion took over the role of Skynet as the self-aware artificial intelligence that wants to exterminate humanity, and it deployed an array of HK aerials to hunt humans. Legion's HK aerials were much more menacing in appearance. In the game inspired by the movie, Legion's collection of aerial gunships included machines such as a Hammerhead, a Bat Ray, a Viper, a Wind Scorpion, and the Wasp, all of which were equipped with highly destructive weaponry. In addition, the Hammerhead possessed subterranean imaging sensors to hunt down hidden resistance bases. The Bat Ray could airdrop hunter-killer tanks. The Wasp could curl its tail inward and shoot guns like a wasp, and the Viper could bend its frontal portion to align its attacks downwards. Another variant of the HK aerials appeared in the Sarah Connor Chronicles show. By this timeline, Skynet had constantly upgraded the original design and created a sleeker, faster line of HK VTOLs. These twin-engine machines were actually designed after the HK drones, but these were more agile and powerful, and hence had a more organic and intimidating presence. The HK VTOLs were deadly hunters and were armed with a single underslung plasma cannon. They often operated in sync with the Series 888 endoskeletons on the battleground below. Because of their agility, the HK VTOLs were extremely difficult to destroy, but like all HK aerials, these two could be brought down by shoulder-fired surface-to-air missiles and plasma weapons. Marvelous verdict. While the Terminators were the most efficient time-traveling infiltrators, the Hunter-Killers proved to be the ultimate war machines. The Terminators and the Hunter-Killers had different purposes and combat styles, but the goal was the same: complete obliteration of humanity, all thanks to Skynet. So, which one of these baddies turned out to be your favorite? Is it the airborne death machines or the battle tanks? Don't forget to tell us in the comments section below, and thank you for watching, folks. If you liked our video, please give us a shout out and watch this space for more marvelous content. See you super soon! If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.